Hey kids, welcome back to another pizza party. I'm Mrs. Pizza. That is Cheese. This is Weenie. And today we are going to talk about some fantasy romances that don't have third act breakups. Now, this has been like a mission of mine for quite some time to find all of the romance books I can, not just fantasy romance, any romance book that I can that doesn't have a third act breakup. Do I hate all third act breakups? No. Some of them can be done actually really well, and I'm totally into it. And, you get emotional, but you know that they will get back together at the very end because that's how romance works. But a lot of the time, I hate it, and it seems unnecessary, and it seems like they could have come up with a better conflict for the third act. After complaining and having my friends on Goodreads offer a bunch of recommendations to me, I have started on this mission to find all of the third act breakup books, non-third act breakup books that I possibly can. And it makes me happy to collect them, to hoard them like a little dragon and then share them with you. So today we are going to talk about the fantasy romance ones that I have read somewhat recently. There are a few that I'm pretty sure don't have third act breakups, but I wasn't at the time making a point to make a little note, put it in a separate little folder on Goodreads that said did not have a third act breakup. So I don't trust my memory all the time. Sometimes I might be misremembering. Sometimes there might have been a big old breakup, but maybe it made sense. So of course I was like, yeah, this one makes plenty of sense. I'm okay with this one. I'm already rambling. Let's talk about some fantasy romances that don't have third act breakups. I gotta drink my coffee with a lid on it because I got a new rug. Ooh. You see my new rug? You see it? She's gorgeous, isn't she? She's also very soft. I'm rubbing it with my foot. Hope you enjoyed. Very, very nice. I got my toddler lid on my coffee because if I spill on this, I might cry. All right. One of the things that spurred this list on is because I have been continuing on in a fantasy romance series, which is called the Borderlands series, and that is by Elsie Winters. And two of the books in this series so far have no third act breakup. I have not read the novella that kind of is the 0.5 beginning of the series, so I don't know if that one has a third act breakup, but I believe that one is called Green-Eyed Monster. And I think the reason I haven't read it is because it's not available on Kindle Unlimited. The other three books in the series so far are, and the most recent book, which just came out this past week, has no third act breakup. Let's talk about it. The first book, the first full-length book in the series is Levias Song. This is the story of Alara. She is part elf, part human, and she works in Seattle, of all places, at a store that she owns with her best friend. Now, in this world, I actually really like this because you get both kind of like urban fantasy as well as more of a little bit more high fantasy going on. But there are portals in this world that can transport you between different places. And some of those places are magical lands where elves live, where fae live, where dragons live. But some of those places are Seattle or any other normal human city that you've heard of. They call the human cities or places that magic doesn't exist the void because it doesn't have any magic in it. And so a lot of magical creatures can't survive in these non-magical places. They are mostly populated by humans. But people like Alara can go to these places because she is part human. So she can survive in both the magical lands and the non-magical lands. Now, one day, Alara is walking through Seattle and she hears a voice. And it is our male main character, and his name is Levi, and he is a siren, which is similar to a merman but different. Basically, he has a magical voice, and his voice enthralls people. Now, these two have an immediate connection and kind of keep bumping into each other. Now, Alara has a very special magical gift, and one that has caught the eye of some nefarious bad guys, and they are interested in having Alara do something for them that she's not interested in doing. So now she is unsafe because these people are trying to kidnap her / intimidate her into doing what they want her to do. And Levi comes to the rescue, along with all of her other friends. She actually has a best friend whose name is Sydney, who is a magpie shifter, and she is the female lead in our second book, which is called Magpies and Mayhem, I believe, or Mayhem and Magpies. I always switch those words for some reason. Now, Levias Song does not have a third act breakup, and it also is a very sweet, lovely fantasy romance. It really was very, very endearing and sweet, and you feel good while reading it. The second book in the series does kind of have a third act breakup, and that's why I'm not going to officially include it in this. Although I will say, as far as third act breakups go, it's the baby, it's a short one, but it does have a third act breakup. The third full length book, I should say, that has just released, which is Seduction of a Psychopomp, Erogenous Handholding, or is it Erotic Handholding? One of the two. Erogenous Handholding and Other Ways to Tame Your Reaper. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the summer because I have loved this series so far. I love this world. I love these characters. In the final book that we have reached, we have the third in this friend group. We have Leviathan, or Levi, in the first book. In the second book, we have Jordan. And their roommate, who is Grim, is the main character of our third book. Now, Grim, also known as Victor, is a Grim Reaper. He is 7 feet tall and super moody and dark, mysterious, and silent most of the time. But he has this really great relationship with his friends. And throughout the other books, you see these really sweet moments with him where he's very sentimental and thoughtful and just a really endearing person. And not that it comes out of nowhere, but he's such a quiet character and supposedly so intimidating and kind of scary to everyone around him that when he does these really sweet things, you actually get a real peek at what his personality is, aside from being this tall, intimidating, mysterious figure. So we start our third book with the longest and most fantastic title, honestly. And Grim has been called home by the matriarch of the family, his grandmother. They are all ageless, almost. These Grim Reapers are considered immortal. They live for very, very long times, and their magic kind of sustains them for very, very long times. He is called home by his grandmother, who tells him that she has a proposition for him. She needs him to get married. Now, the reason that he needs to get married to this particular woman is because Celeste, who is Fae, has fallen ill. And basically, the Fae have tried everything. They have tried absolutely everything to save this princess, and she just keeps getting sicker and sicker. So she's basically been put into some sort of magical stasis to keep her from dying. But if she marries Grim, his magic will keep her alive. So this is a marriage of convenience that has been arranged by both families, and Victor/Grim, being the sweet character that he is, immediately sees his new wife Celeste as something that he must protect at all costs. He is so stinking adorable. The man blushes so much, and you would think it would get annoying, but it doesn't. This is sweet and lovely and a little bit on the slow burny side. Our female main character, Celeste, is a fae, and she has lived a life where, because of her royal status and stuff like that, she has not been given a lot of agency. She hasn't been allowed to make her own decisions or find her own likes and dislikes, and that is something that Grim wants for her. He wants her to be happy. He wants her to ask for things that she wants. And he's very, very worried about her being sick and getting better and taking care of her. But he is the one in this situation that is a little more inexperienced, is how we'll put it. And Celeste is just so stinking tired of all of this erotic hand-holding and finally decides to try and tempt her Reaper. There is no third act breakup in this. And I personally really enjoyed the epilogue, but that's because I've enjoyed all the books in this series. I've seen people say that if they hadn't read other books in this series, they really didn't understand the epilogue or get it. Even people that did weren't necessarily the biggest fans of it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I giggled at it. I highly recommend this entire series, but if you're looking for the ones that don't have third act breakups, I'm going to go with the first and the most recent. I hope this author keeps writing in this world, because I think this series is done for them. They've done the whole friend group, but maybe, possibly, They'll find a way to there's more people. We've been introduced to more people. Can I have just one more book in this world? That's all I'm asking for. The next book we're going to talk about is actually Empire, and this is by Abigail Kelly. This is in the Protectorate series, I believe, but this is the only book I have read from this series. So if you want to read this like a standalone, you can. I did, and I totally understood the majority of things that were happening in this world. This is the story of Zia. She is a garden witch. She's been hired on to take care of a rose garden full of very important roses, because I think a lot of them are very rare and old, at this estate that is owned by Harlan. Now, Harlan is a vampire, and a very old and powerful vampire, and him and Zia have never met. Now, one day, Zia is rushing back to the estate because there is about to be a drop in the temperature, a frost of some kind. Something is happening, and she's going to lose all the roses if she doesn't get there and cover them. But the one rule that Zia was supposed to follow is not going to the estate after dark. So Zia is like, listen, I got to save the roses. So she gets there, tries her best to save the roses, and for the first time ever, comes in contact with Harlan. Now, the thing is that both Zia and Harlan have been daydreaming about each other, even though they've never really met, about what the other would be like, harboring a crush for this person they've never actually talked to. And then they talk to each other, and, the romance happens. The third act conflict in this is not a breakup, and I really enjoyed that. This is also super fast and really sweet, and I really, really enjoyed it. A vampire and a witch? That's just, like, fantasy romance bread and butter, Although I have a soft spot for any witchy romances. So of course I'm gonna like this one, but no third act breakup, and super fun and easy to get through. The next book we are going to talk about is from one of my favorite fantasy romance authors. That is Kimberly Lemming, and this is the most recent book in the Mead Mishap series, and that is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human. This is the third full-length novel in this series, and it is the story of Cherry and Dante. Cherry is the sister of a character from a previous book, and Dante has been introduced previously in books as well. Cherry disappeared years ago and was presumed dead by everyone, including her family, but she wasn't dead. She was stuck on this island in this tower with this dragon who won't talk to her. He just won't talk to anybody, and she's been trying to escape since she got there. Well, one day, Dante shows up. Unbeknownst to him, there's a human there, and he meets her, and he immediately decides that he is interested in Miss Cherry, but she doesn't know that, and she's got to get off this island. So she decides she is going to drug the dragon so that he will take her off the island so she can coerce him into removing her from her tower. Well, she drugs him, even though he was probably going to help her out anyways, and that wasn't too smart on her part. And the two of them accidentally kind of end up demon married because of it. This is another marriage of convenience story, although this is more of a marriage of accident. This is super sweet, and the majority of the story is just Dante and Cherry figuring out if they even like each other at all, or Cherry more figuring out if she likes Dante, because Dante is pretty sure about his feelings from the beginning. Kimberly Lemming books are hilarious. They're so much fun, and they're getting better and better the further the series goes along. I will say all of these books used to be available on Kindle Unlimited, but this author has been picked up by a publisher, and so I believe they took all of the books off. They're getting new covers, they're getting a whole new look, and I'm sure they're going to get some editing done, because even though I really, really love this series, there is some editing that needs to be done, at least in the first book. The first book, I don't believe there is a third act breakup, but I can't be for sure. And the second one, I don't think there is either. But I can't, again, say for sure. And I actually tried to Google this because I was like, I don't think it was. I think the conflict in this one was this and this one was this. But I can't say with confidence. I will say the other books in this series are definitely worth reading. The first one being That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. And the second one being That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. The first book is fun. The second book is better. The third book is my favorite. This series is just getting better and better. And the last two books that we're going to talk about are both in series and novellas. So one of them I know for sure that you can read as a standalone. The other one wouldn't make any sense if you did. The first book is going to be Servant to the Spidae, and this is by Ruby Dixon. Now, here's what I'll say about this one. I, again, tried to do some digging to see if I could find out whether or not there was a third act breakup in the first book in the series, and I can't figure it out. And it's been over a year since I read that book, and so I'm thinking, like, I don't remember there being a third act breakup. I remember what the third act conflict was, but I can't say it with confidence. So I'm not going to put that one on the list, but I am going to tell you to read it, and that is Bound to the Battle God. This is the story of Faith, and she's a normal woman living a normal life when one day she starts hearing very strange noises coming through the wall of her apartment. Something is going on in the empty apartment next door. She keeps hearing these noises and hearing these noises, and when she finally goes to investigate, she gets sucked through a portal into another world, which is slightly medieval, where these gods have also been slammed back down to the mortal plane after they've been split into multiple personalities, each one looking like a whole human but having a very distinct personality trait. And through circumstances, Faith gets stuck being the anchor, or the mortal that ties the god to Earth, for a battle god named Aaron, and he is the worst. In the beginning, he's cocky and arrogant, and just Faith can't stand him. Then as time goes on, things happen. These two go on an adventure together. This book took the author a very, very long time to write, and you can feel that when reading it. I always tell everyone when I was listening to this on audiobook, the beginning starts off fine, it's not bad, but as the story goes along, it gets better and better, and by the end, I couldn't function. I was listening to the audiobook, staring at a wall while everything was happening, just unable to move from that spot until whatever was going to happen was going to happen. I was invested. This is such a fun ride. I can't recall there being a third act breakup, but since I can't say it with confidence, reader beware. What I can say with confidence is that the newest book in this series, which is The Servant to the Spidae, which is following a character story from the first book, does not have a third act breakup. But this is not something that you can really read as a standalone. I mean, I guess you could, but you would really be missing a lot of what was going on. Servant to the Spidae is the story of Yelena, who in the first book is left behind in a tower at the end of the world with the three gods of fate. One is in charge of the past, one is in charge of the present, and one is in charge of the future. And they are all, I'm calling them spider adjacent, spidery-ish. They have 2 arms and 2 legs, but they're gods that have a lot of spider influence in their making. So Yelena is stuck in this tower with these 3 gods of fate, and she is now their anchor. And you know, it's a Ruby Dixon book, so spicy times happen. But there is no third act breakup. And it was a nice little, whatever happened to Yelena? Now I know kind of story. The next novella I'm going to talk about is something you can read as a standalone, because I did, and I had a great time. And that is The StoneHeart Bride, and this is by Kati Wilde. This is in the, I think it's the Badlands series. I haven't read anything else, I don't believe. Yes, I have. I think I've actually read the first book in this series, I think, and had a good time with it. Wasn't my favorite, but I had a good time with it. But this one, the one complaint I have with it is it was so short. I think it's like 57 pages, and I was having so much fun, I was sad it was over. This is the story of Flora, and we pick up this story in the thick of it. Flora has been kidnapped by some orcs who plan on eating her for dinner. She has been captured, is tied up, and in the middle of their dinner preparations when she is reminiscing on how she got here. Flora's heart has recently been broken by Brom the StoneHeart, who is a barbarian from a neighboring country. I would assume country. City? We're going to say country. Brom and Flora had been introduced months previous, and Flora thought there was something there, but when her uncle tried to offer her and her hand in marriage to Brom, he swiftly rejected it, and Flora's heart is broken. She thought that he had feelings for her too, even though he's very calm and cold and reserved. She thought that she saw something there. So now Flora is tied up, about to be eaten for dinner with a broken heart. It couldn't get much worse. Until someone arrives to rescue Flora from this horrible fate. This is so short. It's so short. And I wish that we had been there for Brom and Flora meeting, this tension building up. But it was kind of fun to start in the middle and just not have a third act breakup, you know? I enjoyed it. And I feel like this makes me want to go back and read more from this series, because I believe there's 2 books that I have not read that are already out. But that, kids, is where we are going to stop talking about fantasy romances without third act breakups. It'd be nice if I could talk correctly. I am always on the lookout for some more of these. Honestly, it's what I'm always looking for. I have actually read a lot of fantasy romances as well that don't have third act breakups. I have quite the list of those too, because that's what I'm looking for, really. I've found that contemporary romances, it's even harder to find ones without the third act breakup, because they can't rely on a dragon coming in and stealing somebody or something like you can in fantasy romance. But if you have any good contemporary romances that don't have third act breakups, give them to me. Gimme. I wanna. If you had fun hanging out with me and the dogs, please subscribe, even though they've literally been passed out this entire time. I think it's because they were laying outside, and it's like 100+ degrees here today, so they were exhausted. I didn't put them out there. They wanted to go out there themselves. But I hope you're reading good books out there, wherever you are. And I'll see you next time.